Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mastermind, Body, and Spirit Show. I am your host, Matt Belair. Today's guest is a modern-day mystic of the sacred ancient ways and a pioneering midwife to the new paradigm since the 1970s. Her heart-centered voice is heard worldwide as a passionate New Thought leader championing peace for all women, men, and children on this planet. She is president of New Earth Theological University and also the executive director of New Earth University, the learning arm of the New Earth Project. She serves as a founding trustee of an unprecedented initiative, the International Tribunal for Natural Justice, a world court of the people, or a new court for the people and by the people. She is a healing conduit and a spiritual mentor, poet, and author of 2 books. After 5 years hosting an online radio show, in 2016, she launched an educational web TV program, Kaleidoscope. She shares a 360 awakening process through a path of soul sovereignty, inspiring all to dream big, expanding their consciousness into a life of radiance and contentment. Welcome to the show, Reverend Dr. Nancy Ashe.
Oh my goodness, Tashi Delig and Matt, it is awesome to be on your program. You have a beautiful, beautiful program. And hey to everybody out there in social media. I understand we're live out there, and this will be on other platforms. Who knows? Who cares? We're here right now, and that's all that matters. Thank you, Matt, for inviting me. I'm so delighted to be with you in your vibration.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so excited to have you here and talk about all the amazing work that you're up to. You've done a lot already, and the dreams seem even bigger than what you've accomplished already. And you have an amazing group around you. There's a lot going on in the world, and there seems to be a lot going on in your world. And I'm really excited to dive into the New Earth Project. But before we get into all the amazing things you're up to, do you want to give people a little bit about your background? Because I even shortened the bio, and I had it really squinty, so it was hard for me to read during the beginning. I forgot to change it. I was like, oh, it's too late now. That's the joys of going live. But yeah, do you want to give people like a brief or however long you want background, because you've accomplished a lot and you're up to some really amazing stuff.
Oh, you're so kind. Hey, let's just keep it short, for folks, because I know there's so much, and I like to really focus on the now, But I've been around the block a couple of times, and a seasoned gal, let's say, and have had some interesting experiences for sure. So thank you. I guess to be honest with you, I've kind of been aware of being on a spiritual path, sacred path for decades. I mean, even as a young girl, like I knew, Matt, I knew in my heart, in my soul, and all my work is about the soul, that, I was in a very interesting place. And when I was around 10 years old, and when on my 11th birthday, I remember I got my wish. I got a telescope. That's what I wanted. I wasn't into Barbie dolls and all that kind of stuff. I wanted to look at the sky. I would always look at the sky and long to go back home, knowing that, as a starseed, as many of us are. And so that was so powerful. So I knew back then I was conscious on some kind of level that there was something different about the place that I was living in. It seemed a little harsh, and I longed to return to where I was from in the great cosmos, as a traveler through many of our systems, been around. And anyway, and then, as I got into my teens, I met Joseph Campbell, the great mythologist, arguably the greatest mythologist of our time. And for anyone who is not familiar with Joe Campbell, oh my God, I am thrilled to always turn people on to his work, most of you would know him as the guy that coined the phrase "follow your bliss." If you've heard that term, that's Joe Campbell. And he was the one that influenced, the Star Wars amazing journey, right? And most of us are familiar with that conglomeration. My goodness, he was really the inspiration behind that, the hero's journey. So I started out, as a yogini and yoga back in the early 70s when you were really on the fringe if you were into that kind of thing, which sounds strange now. Everybody's really cool with yoga. I mean, who's not aware of that, right? And supportive of it. It's so mainstream. Back then, you were a little strange if you were into yoga and meditation and all of this. So, we kind of forged our way, and there was the quote, the new age. We would talk about, I know now that the new age, sometimes I know in certain circles we hear about, well, we're not the new age, we're now a new earth. To me, it's all the same. All the labels are the same. We're all evolving consciousness. That's always been my wheelhouse, consciousness, spirituality. I entered the ministry when I was young. I originally wanted to be a swami, to be quite honest with you, and take sannyasin vows. And my yoga teacher, Chandra, bless his heart, who passed away last year, I was so heartbroken. He would say, no, 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 I don't want you to do that. You need to be in the world. You're good with people, all kinds of people, not taking vows and being a monk. And so he was right. And here we are, decades later, and I've had some fascinating experiences. Worked in for organizations and other movements, and like fast forward to now, the last couple of years, I met an interesting person through Facebook, actually. So here we go, full circle. My work is at doing a 360, going full circle, that hero's journey, the heroine's journey, right? I met an interesting fellow named Sasha Stone. I had never heard of him. And we met on Facebook and we started chatting, and here I am, we Skyped. I started helping out. I've always had a life of service. My entire life has been in that service. And I think that's a powerful path to realize that we can all embrace and let go of the rest and not worry about all the other trappings. Just do what you feel called to do from the soul's level in service, and then all the other things fall into place. Whether you're, I don't know, having shows like this or writing books and all these sort of daunting projects, but just even the simplicity of being in sacred space and honoring the earth, as a wisdom keeper, whatever we may be doing, or just smiling at someone, being kind, helping someone who's the elderly, helping a child, whatever it may be, So it's been quite a ride, and I could go on and on, but I don't want to bore your listeners with all that. We can maybe come back and circle in on a couple of things if it helps. And I'm just honored to, I'm happy I woke up today and I can still be here and do what I got to do. Truly, truly. And that's it. Just sort of step aside. What's the word? Ecstasy, to ecstasis, to step outside of oneself in ecstasy and do what we got to do. So here we are with you. I love it. I love it. I'm so happy to have met you. You're just wonderful.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate you trailblazing, because even my generation, which is a few later, I'm still weird for meditating and believing in things like intuition and mindset. Like even being an athlete, it's normal in athletics to somewhat normal to look at mindset. So you guys had to trailblaze and forge the path for us. So I appreciate that. So there's a lot of directions we can go. I know that you're working on things. You're working for the New Earth Project. You have a university education arm. Do you want to start about some of that work or some of the projects that you are working on? What is exactly the New Earth Project and what's going on over there?
Yes, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's go maybe like the 360 view. I'm kind of known in some circles as like the 360 lady. That's like I did some doctoral work on that. It's the based on, Joe Campbell's full circle hero's journey motif. So in case people are like doing a 360, what is that? So yeah, like the 360 view, like all encompassing, full spectrum spherical awareness. So let's see if it makes sense for folks. So the New Earth Project was really a, are we good? I lost you, Matt. I lost your
There we
volume.
go.
Okay.
There. No, I had you on mute. It dropped the Facebook Live because our bandwidth is minimal. So
Okay.
it's so it's a regular podcast. Nobody gets to see our shiny faces live.
It's okay.
So sad. Sorry, keep going.
It's cool. Hey, it's Mercury in retrograde, my friend.
I have had weird things from that. Like everyone, it actually has been a thing, and really peculiar things have happened. So it's definitely not the first time.
Hey, we just roll with it, right? Listen, I am not an astrologer, far from it, but I am very endeared to that tool, in my little toolkit of wonderful ways of being a little more balanced in life. And astrology, especially now, as I mean, let's face it, astrology is ruled by Aquarius. And what are we moving into? The age of Aquarius. And so it's really much more at the fore. And I've been diving in for the last maybe 3 or 5 years with a lot of fun. And I have to tell you, astrology is a trip, man. It is amazing. And yeah, so, we don't stop our lives when Mercury's in retrograde. We do what we got to do. But, there's interesting things happening, right? And we're all affected by the moon. I mean, if the moon can affect the tide and we're 75% water, how could it not affect us and the stars and the planets and all these? They're entities, they're bodies, conscious bodies, in my view. This is my perspective. So anyway, we
Hmm
just roll with it. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to add on to that. I 100% agree. What's been coming up on the podcast and my own research through the courses and the learning that I've done is, I think that a lot of the people who do a good amount of work feel like everything is conscious. They're proving plants are conscious now, beyond a reasonable doubt. It's like, no, they have consciousness. So, a lot of traditions will say even the rocks, everything is alive. Everything is alive. And also understanding the entities, the native cultures, the spirit of the fire, the spirit of the water, the spirit of the wind, the spirit of the earth as a living being, and it changes your perspective. And then the additional one that's been I've been wrapping my head around, which I find interesting, is your business as the entity. They call it the business entity. And once you get enough of that momentum going, it becomes kind of like this almost autonomous entity of the energy you put in. So I found that concept really fascinating. So, I'm 100% with you and in full agreement, and I think that a lot of the people who've been on the podcast will be with you too. And in a good notice, although we're not live on Facebook anymore, the recording is way better, so we can see your nice face and I can hear you a lot better. So, maybe it
Oh,
was for the
so
best.
thank you. Thanks. You know what? It's all good. Yeah, it's all good. We
Hmm
made our Facebook effort.
Yeah, yeah, we tried it.
We did. We did. It's all good. So I think where we were at,
New Earth
correct
projects.
me if I'm wrong, that New Earth Project, like kind of the 360 view of that. So
Yeah.
um, Humanitad Foundation, which was founded by Sasha Stone, the New Earth Project was somewhat of a brainchild, let's say, from born out of Humanitad Foundation. Sasha Stone is the founder, and then others got together. And we're like, we've got to do something. Let's create some kind of a sovereignty community. That's how the ITNJ was born as well. It was born out of Humanitad. So the New Earth Project is this amazing amalgamation of women and men around the world in all different aspects of life. And taking a stand. It's like, once you cross the Rubicon, you can't go back. You know what I'm saying? It's like we need to collectively, from the human heart, make change, better this world, elevate, consciousness. I mean, that is just seminal. So there's different parts of the New Earth Project. And I think when we actually launched officially, let's say the website, the portal part of it to the world, it was around almost 4 years ago, maybe, yeah, pretty much 4 years ago, almost to the day, I think. And so there were people behind the scenes working a little bit prior to that. So we're pretty new. I mean, it's only been like 4 or 5 years, And I've been around for a little bit over 3 years. And so there are fractal parts of the whole New Earth Project. Think of it like sort of an umbrella term. And within that, you have like the New Earth Nation. And New Earth Nation is about like the sovereign jurisdiction, community, the land holdings, all of that. It's really declaring one's sovereignty. I declared myself as a sovereign, and other groups can declare themselves as like micronations or other small nations and so forth. And then there's other aspects or fractals of the New Earth Project. For example, the New Earth Haven, the prototype we actually have in Indonesia, in Bali, the New Earth Haven, Bali, near Ubud. Then there's the New Earth University, right? So there are different aspects. There's New Earth Media. There's the New Earth Marketplace. There's, different fractals. And then within that, let's say the New Earth University, which I have the daunting but doable honor of, being the one to oversee that project worldwide. We have initiatives too, like let's say the New Earth Youth Council or the Arcs of Fire, which is really championing bringing Agnihotra practice around the world into communities. So there's just so much going on. There's a lot of different layers, and it may seem a little bit, I know for me, it took me a few months, when I first joined to volunteer and help out. It was like all these moving parts, to get used to everything because we're global and we unite in miraculous ways like this until we're more and more on the ground. We already have, that's what I like about the New Earth Project. One of the reasons that I really brought my energy to it, because I've worked with other organizations, is that we're really, digging in the dirt. We're really building community, geodesic domes, biomimicry, sacred geometry, and being able to be in Bali, to be at our Ancient Futures festival, in 2017. That was just awesome, So that is a prototype, and then we plan on building different New Earth Haven communities around the world in the times to come. So that's just sort of a brief sketch overview within the New Earth University part. That's probably one of the more larger kind of fractals of the New Earth Project. We've got maybe I'd say around 85 or so staff, my staff, faculty, and our esteemed fellows of the New Earth University. And Matt, we actually used to be the New Earth Institute, like when I came in, and we followed that energetic source code, and to bank on what you were saying just before about the elements. I thought that was a nice segue because our whole New Earth blueprint is based on the platonic solids. You know, it's beautiful. So our entire New Earth University, when I helped to morph it into a university from the Institute, all of the schools, we have 6 schools presently, they are designed right now with 2 main disciplines, which are the sacred feminine and the divine masculine. The 1 + 1 = 3, so to speak, you know, as a hologram, you know, holographic structure, so to speak. And we're just a group of um, people that come together with an open heart to help affect change, to raise, to elevate the consciousness, whether someone's in, the arena of health and wellness, or open source technology and science, or design and development, bioarchitecture, or consciousness and spirituality, like myself, and the learning also. The new paradigm pedagogy of learning, what I call like unlearning, those areas, socioeconomics. Look at what's happening today here at the end of 2017, with digital currency. We're at the brink of a huge reset globally in the months maybe, and years to come. Never before seen changes. So, and it's very exciting to me because I've been, a part of this whole, quote, new, for lack of a better term, new age movement, new earth movement, for decades. And to see the progress we've made is really wonderful. We have a long way to go. Maybe some people say 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but I'm very, very optimistic. Not Pollyanna, but I'm optimistic because I really see the good in this world. I interface with amazing people every single day, like people like you, that I am afforded this opportunity in grace to have conversations, to make change, through our different programs that we have. So maybe just as like a little overview there, is that helpful? And maybe did you want to dive in a little deeper in certain parts? You just let me know.
Yeah, that was a wonderful overview. I was going to sit here and let you keep talking about it as long as you wished because there's a lot there. It has massive depth. And before diving in, I think that for me personally, the most practical question I could ask is how does one get involved if they want to get involved? I
Cool.
like to say that for me, I like to support people who are making change. And oftentimes I think that our young generation and people, they just don't know what to do. They can get a job at Coca-Cola or they can get a job any day at the military and make a great living. You know what I mean? Making money. In Canada, it's the oil fields and all these things that aren't necessarily contributing to humanity. Maybe some people in the military will think differently. And sure, there's a lot of great military projects, I'm sure, but shooting people, probably, I'm just not going to go for that one time. Um, but if there was something that people could sign up for that made sense, I think that people would contribute because there's a lot to be done and we need a lot of people, even if it's like an hour of your time. We spoke before the podcast about Michael Tellinger and the
Hmm.
Ubuntu project, which is just giving a few hours of your week and, to a project of social good. And so, many hands make light work. So that's the first thing I'd say. Is there a way for people to get involved? What I would like to offer to you personally, is anything I've seen with crowdfunding. It can be very powerful, and I'm really good at that. And so, with a few influencers, let's say you had a few celebrities and you have really great rewards, like people get gifts, it could be whatever, and experience rewards. We have a few celebrities, a few well-known people. We crowdfund a little eco village for somewhere, and we can do this repeatedly over and over again, as long as, it's everything. It's of service to humanity, from top to bottom. It's going to make an impact and you get great rewards and there's great people involved. Everybody wins and we can figure that out. So I'll stop yammering and let you continue.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful, beautiful. Um, yeah, I'm very resonant, with what you've said, and in the nitty gritty, feel free. Anyone who's really has a serious inquiry, you want to email me. My email is Nancy, Nancy, at humanitad.org. And maybe, I don't know if this is going to be out on, I don't know how you, with the platform, if you have like lower thirds, you can add that in or something in some kind of link.
I'll put it in the
But
show notes for sure so people can get you.
Yeah, cool beans. That's wonderful. And then, just contact it, northproject.org, or, and then, through our Facebook pages. We are delighted. And I will tell you that, so many people are contacting us constantly, every day, every day. I'm also involved, Matt, in the New Earth Project in core management globally. And so, we gather regularly every week, and then many of us many more times a week, So if you have a certain skill set or a certain desire to help in a certain way, we are really, really open to that. And we used to, I'll tell you, we used to have like a suggestion of, a certain amount of hours and all. And we really came to the realization, because I want to share with your viewers, your beautiful audience, that our sort of tagline, if you will, of the project, New Earth Project, is art, beauty, and consciousness supplanting time, money, and fear. And so if we're moving out of, the construct of time, from that, we're in the 0 point of the eternal heart of in the eternal now. So rather than have the constraint of, X amount of hours and so forth, one way we were kind of talking, and we're like, why are we doing that? We're falling into that trap, of that time construct. So, I mean, it's helpful, a little bit in terms of, you and I met, we were going to meet at X amount of time today on the quote clock. So we knew when to coordinate, together, obviously. But, we're moving away from time, from that necessity of time. We're moving away from the necessity of relying on money, so that we're in a gift economy. That's what our whole School of Socioeconomics and Ecology, it's resourced energy, our beautiful natural resources. There's so much, we don't need money. So, the Ubuntu movement, Michael Tellinger, I had the great pleasure of meeting him, briefly in Bali, and we sat on a symposium, talk together. And I think that day we were talking about new paradigm learning that day. It was the element of air, so going back to the Platonic, the elements, but, we are all in this together. All of the different movements, there are many, there's a good handful of movements. So just a matter right now is, kind of connecting the dots. People ask me, oh, what's your background? I'm just a dot connector right now. I'm a consciousness sort of dot connector, and flowing in through that sacred space. Having moved from an academic stance earlier in life, into new ways of being through education and learning, which is so screwed up, and particularly in my country, the United States. And I know you probably broadcast around the world, right? So here in the United States, education is, it is so broken. I will say it is criminal. It's actually criminal. It's broken, it's boring, it's way too expensive, it's ridiculous. Some of my faculty in New Earth University, when they tell me how much money they owe in school loans, I fall off my chair. It's outrageous. And it's got to be changed, and we're doing that. So I have that daunting but doable task to sort of oversee this part of it right now and bring it into, advance it a bit, because this whole New Earth Project, to be honest with you, this is a big social experiment. We've never done this before. And anybody that tells you they know what they're doing, they don't know what they're doing. We're following our heart. We are following that 0 point of that collective human heart. We've crossed the line in the sand. We're just not going to take it anymore. You know, we're just not. And many of us are rising up. And rather than just talking about it, like we're doing now, which is really great. And I have a talk show too with New Earth University. So, I've got a couple degrees in talking, yada, yada. But it's the walking the talk, right, Matt? That's the cool thing is having different kinds of communities. And, I gave a talk myself when I was in Bali at the festival. I was asked to give a talk, and it was called the ABCs Building Community, for the New Earth University, something like that. I forget the exact title. But, and I've thought about this a lot. It's, there are many kinds of communities, right? There's the learning community. And right now we're more online than on site. But as time goes on, as we build campuses on site of New Earth University, there's going to be more community there. And there's all kinds of communities around the world, and all the different havens are going to have different focuses depending upon the land. My vision is to have a place here in New Mexico in the United States in the Southwest. So the New Earth University campus here will have a different focus than the New Earth Haven in, let's say, Bali. The weather's really different. The materials we use for the bamboo domes, and it has to be different. The Earth, she dictates to us how we would build on the land. We just don't go in and dig a hole. We, like you and I did before we even started today, we go into sacred space. We're in our heart and focus on what is the best for all in this moment for what we're doing. So does that make sense a little bit in terms of how you could help, or should we dive into that more?
I think it was very well rounded, deep. People can get a hold of you. That's step one. And you made a lot of really great points there that I think that are made on the podcast consistently, and people who listen a lot will start to see that. You're talking about serving everybody. You're not talking about what can I get. You're committed to what can I give. You're also heart
Yes.
centered, and you're
Yes.
also committed to walking the talk. And that's the biggest step. So many people, especially in the conscious community, it's really frustrating for me being in it, and how many people, because consciousness is cool now, right? You said you have this rise, and I see it a little bit like the skateboarders when they became cool, and it's really great that you want to get involved, but just do it for real, you know what I mean? And just be where you are, because you don't become enlightened overnight. And enlightenment, is just kindness. It's just your intention. It's just be willing to actually do something, and you're not doing it for recognition. You're not doing it to be the cool kid. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do, and it's the right thing to do. And so
Yeah.
wherever you can get involved, for everybody listening who's a part of this and listens to this podcast, if it resonates, just reach out and just to have a look, because the challenge on the planet right now is that there's not a lot of projects. You think there'd be way more, and I think a lot are firing up. I'm involved. I love reaching out and talking to people like you, and I'm going to be involved in a few projects, and I keep sharing them. And the bigger scale, the more we can get, like
Good.
Ubuntu project off the ground and all these different things. People can chip in a few hours or just have a look and say, oh no, there is another option, right? We don't have to ride this sinking, broken, old, polluting ship into the ground. We can start with a little tiny boat made of wood first, and then we'll build a better boat together. And then all of a sudden we're on a, floating paradise island that we got to build and create as a unit. So I didn't really ask a question in that scenario. So you could dive deeper wherever you want. I think that one of the things you touched on, I did want to ask about, is you said that you declared yourself as a sovereign being. I've heard of that before. I've seen people do it. I would like to do it because because I would like to be sovereign in every single way. I wonder if that's too deep to go into, or if you can talk about that a little bit, because I
Well,
did law in
yeah,
school, and it talked about it a bit, but it was a challenge. Like when I looked into it, it's like, because our
yeah,
system is corrupt. That's if you look
oh
into it,
yeah,
you know that it's very corrupt.
yeah, yes, and the thing is, Matt, particularly here, in the United States, where we're free, and it's this young, beautiful country, and we are a beautiful country. We're wonderful. There's amazing people in this country, and but it's interesting that when you travel and when you want to go overseas and stay, let's say I wanted to go over and just live in Bali for 2 years. You think you're free? Think again,
Yep,
because the
I know this.
visas, the legal, the papers, we're not really that free in as we think we are, the illusion of that. And that's part of this whole like awakening process, the wake up call, the clarion call, when we start realizing things like what, and it's pretty intense. It is pretty intense. And I'm not a lawyer, by the way. I'm not an expert by any means, shape, or means of in natural law, but I'm was asked to be a part. I'm a founding trustee of the International Tribunal for Natural Justice, which is an incredible. Um, we're a court for the people and by the people. And so, if you want to learn more about sovereignty and natural law, like for example, if you go to the New Earth University, our website, like we have many websites, by the way, New Earth Project. That's another thing. We have so many websites. We have so much going on. There's something for everybody. So if we drill into this sovereignty issue, when I pushed that button, I don't know, 3.5, 4 years ago, whatever it was, that was the first thing I did. I pushed a button. I declared my sovereignty, and I signed this, and it was a powerful moment from the soul's purpose. And so if you go to let's see, let's give out for your viewers, your audience. New Earth is one word, dot university. That will take you to that website. There's the New Earth Nation. There's the New Earth Project.org. That's our main, overview website. And then, like I explained earlier, the little fractal parts of it, New Earth University, New Earth Media, New Earth Festivals, New Earth Haven. So if you go to the New Earth Nation, which is the jurisdiction aspect, the sovereign jurisdiction aspect of the whole project, I think that will help you get a little bit more information and learn more. And then you can also go to the itnj.org and start to tune in a little bit more about like the idea of natural justice. But we have a plethora of resources and like different videos and articles and things that can help start to fill out, this inquiry of being sovereign, being a sovereign person and declaring your sovereignty in the world. It's a big thing. And so we're kind of known as like a sovereignty movement. You know how certain movements have other more of a focus as others, which is great, which is fine. It's like we all have our own identity. It's like the term oneness, right? People think, oh, oneness, I'm going to lose my individuated self into this big, whitewashed glob of oneness. But no, it couldn't be further from that. We're individuated souls as part of the collective, fractals of the whole, of God, goddess, all there is, whatever we wish to call the great universe, the great pool of consciousness that we resonate to. Let's say, like the work of Sheldrake, Rupert Sheldrake, the morphic resonance, or Ken Wilber, integral theory and so forth. There's so much going on. There's so much going on. I think it's a matter of what your soul feels called to. Like for me, I just go with where I completely have surrendered. I use that word a lot, and some people don't misunderstand surrender. They think it's weakness. It couldn't be further from the truth. When you surrender, when you give up, that real strong egoic self, um, and you just surrender to the wisdom of great spirit guiding you along. Oh my God, the potential that comes to you, the abundance that flows in. It's just be careful what you ask for because you're going to get a lot, right, Matt? Isn't it true?
Yeah, it's an interesting ride, that's for sure. It's been an
Yeah.
interesting it's been an interesting life experience. I had a comment once as like I was like traveling and someone just looks at me after hearing a couple of the stories at a festival. It's just like, man, you've done more in like the last 6 months than I've done in my entire life. And he was like this 40-year-old man. I was like, well, I don't know, man. Like, what do you want to? Then I just always ask, like, what do you want to do? Right. I just put the thing that's my highest joy and my highest bliss first, and then all the other stuff. So you don't necessarily need money. On the podcast, I'll talk about, before I needed some sandwich money, and that's just so I can do the podcast and eat sandwiches. That's really all I require. And so I had to, divert some attention, figure that out. Sandwich money came, and now I'm looking for thriving money so then I can contribute to projects of service to humanity. With the more that I receive, the more that I can give. And that's, a little bit of a process of just me going through my childhood upbringing and, my own process of self-worth and self-love to be able to receive that magnitude. But the more that I receive, the more I can give and contribute, and that will be a very fun next step. And I know it'll be an exciting process when it really turns on, because going to Egypt with Nassim Haramein and the Resonance Foundation, being able to experience Burning Man and the Oregon eclipse with just powerful people all conversing around like this, living really in the new earth as I feel it, and looking at how we can make that permanent. I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit, you know, with when you declare yourself as a sovereign being, what does that mean exactly? Can you talk just a little bit of clarity there of what happens, what you get, what you lose, maybe? Because I'm have an idea, but not really clear.
Well, I mean, it means something to everyone individually, certainly.
Does it mean
Um,
something governmentally though? Like, does it change your tax laws or anything like that, or is it more like
no, I mean, if you want to take those specific measures, which there are many doing that, it can have great shifting in all of that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to learn about the specifics of law. There's a lot to learn. So for me, in declaring that, to me, I'm about soul sovereignty, being a soul sovereign, that my energy, my life force, my beingness is not going to be harvested by anyone. I am a soul sovereign. And, we could get into a lot of interesting, certainly history, ideas about, the whole, let's say, universe, cosmos itself. I mean, that could be a whole nother show. We could really dive into that. Um, yeah, that's pretty darn interesting stuff. So that for me, that was like the main. And you said, I think you asked me like, well, what do you gain? What do you lose? For me, I gained a sense of extraordinary freedom on the soul level that I had never experienced before. And of course, I knew, having been, on this path ad nauseum for decades, I knew like everything that I'm doing, I'm guided to. There are no mistakes. We don't make mistakes. We're on this trajectory in life, and um, what we're guided to strongly, what feels right within us, we know that. We all know that. And so there's a tremendous amount of freedom. I didn't feel that I lost anything, to be honest with you. And there are different degrees of people taking action in depending on where they live too, different countries and laws and so forth. Um, but it there are ways that you can be guided to do or take certain actions as a sovereign in your own country with a law, so that when you go, if you have to go to court for something, or in terms of paying taxes or not, there's a lot of different ways that you can learn to be a sovereign and really practice that. But it's not maybe for everyone at this moment, to enact all of that, because there is an organic process to it, that you learn. And there are many people that have stepped out and are teaching these things, doing these things, have experienced these things, in terms of the law, their local law, and what they are doing and how they're declaring themselves sovereign. So it's pretty
Yeah, well,
fascinating. And
'cause I
yeah.
came across it a long time ago because I actually did law in college. I don't know why. I wanted to help people, and I was either going to be an entrepreneur, or I was going to be a cop. And the reason why I chose
Oh,
cop was because I was like, okay, no, I can help people being a cop. And I had the idea of being a good cop, right? And I'm not a fan of the whole system of that right now, but
right.
it's a service, and I could, I thought I could do some good. And anyway, so I learned about law, and I was like, what the flying F bomb is going on here? And I realized how absolutely crooked it is. They changed the language. People have no idea. And it all has to do, in Canada, it's maritime sea law, and this is the same in the States, and it's the same in, I think, Europe as well. And,
Hmm.
it's sea law, and your birth certificate is a shipping container receipt, essentially.
That's right.
And
And
so
all
and
caps.
so
That name in all caps. That's right.
all caps, yeah, become a, now you become a legal entity, or is this a legal entity? It's awful. And so I looked at the process of it, and the thing is, what I learned is you really got to know what you're doing. And I was just curious in the way that you did it. Was it a legal process, or was it more kind of like when people do something like they make a commitment to themselves and because a strong declaration is real. And I wasn't
Yes, it
sure if it
is.
was a
It is real
uh,
to me. It was real to
mhm.
me. And, as far as where I particularly live in this, area, this state called New Mexico, in this place called the United States of America, there's a difference between, United States and America. I mean, one is more of a corporation, and we realize that you start studying, like you said, the law and the legalese, the between the lines, these contracts. And for me, declaring my sovereignty was more of an energetic recalibration of the soul for me. And other people go on and they pursue all of the documentation parts of that and really take it to where they want to go with it. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I think I may have mentioned, I'm not a lawyer. I don't teach law, far from it, even though I'm a part of the IT&J. Um, so there are others in the New Earth Project that have that as, like, someone like Greg Paul, for example, one of our co-founders. This is his passion, Matt. This is his love. Is, maybe you might want to have him on the program. It'd be lovely. He's got the Sovereign's Way Academy now, which is one of our academies within the New Earth University, one of our affiliates and programs and classes. So he's fantastic, and he's also one of my fellow trustees in the ITNJ. Um, so he would be able to do a whole show with you on this particular discussion and do it a lot better justice, not to make a pun there, which I did, on this subject, than I certainly could, for sure. Um, but there's a lot. There's a lot you can do. There's a lot of things you can learn and how you speak in court. And I remember when I went to court, I think I had jury, yeah, it was jury duty right after I declared my sovereignty. And so I had, all this in my in my heart space, and I went in and I actually, when I was filling out the form, I actually said, honestly, I do not feel that I would appropriately be able to judge someone because of my own spiritual views. You know, I've been a minister since '85, intra-spiritual minister, and I champion that movement. But, I wrote down a number of things on this form that I felt from my heart and I felt very strongly about. Well, of course, we were in the court, and they're all the jurors are there and the judge, and all of a sudden the judge, who was a woman, says, "I'd like everyone to leave the court except one person, Nancy Ashe." And I went, oh boy, here we go, Hi. Oh my goodness. And it's interesting because my husband works at like the largest court in our state. He's very high administrative, so I'm a little bit, discreet in what I do and how I do it, in honoring, someone else. And so she said to me, well, so I read what you wrote and this and that. And she asked me a number of questions. And how do you feel? Tell me, and I spoke from my heart. And lo and behold, of course, everybody came back in, and the prosecutor said, "Nancy Ashe, you can go." So I got out of jury duty that way. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, that's just like a really small microcosm of what we're talking about here. We're talking about sovereign life and being free, but it's just an example of, as a newbie to all this, I applied what I had learned in what I said from my heart in strength, and it had that outcome. Because personally, I really didn't want to sit there and listen to that case for 2 weeks or 3 weeks and be involved in that,
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
well, yeah. Well, I know what you mean because I've done it. Fought some court tickets, like speeding ones and things like that, and
right,
have awareness. I also had one teacher tell me that, he's just like, you don't really have to pay your taxes, but I don't suggest you do it because you're going to get caught because they use all these tricks. They
that's right,
basically, there's so many tricks, and
that's
I
right,
learned some of
yes,
them just assuming, right? Give me this, give me that, right to travel. And the way that I kind of say it, and I think we're a little bit on the path of what it is to be a free human being. People don't realize that they're slaves, and that's the
yes,
unfortunate, awful truth. And they don't even understand the multidimensionality of that, because that's just for people to understand that they're actually not free is too much of a stretch. But then you want to go into the multidimensional craziness of it, that's even worse and mind blowing and
yes,
ridiculous.
yes,
And so
yes,
what we are fighting for is human rights, human freedom for actual real. We have people starving to death, but that's not even
yeah.
beyond, if you try to give a beaver, make him pay forest tax, he's just like, what are you doing? And so we're supposed to be these evolved beings that can travel. And that's when I realized this, when I went to Australia and I was making money on the internet. I was like, okay, I've been here for a year. The only way I get to stay here a little bit longer, although I can provide for myself, is to pick fruit for 4 months. I had to pick fruit for 4 months, which I didn't do because I was like, F that. To stay in a place on the planet that I could provide I'm not taking from the system. I'm not doing any of those things. So,
Right.
I think that that's part of what you guys are doing, right? Obviously, it's a big piece, and I would love to have him on to educate, because you really need to know what you're talking about, because they have tricks, and they're really
Oh
good, and
yeah,
they'll scare the crap out of you.
yes,
I know a friend of mine that defended himself, the Supreme Court of Canada, for marijuana, and got off because he knew he was a free and sovereign being, and he also had a massive next
yes,
level spiritual awakening and realized he's the truth. And when you're at that level, they can't impede on that level, like kind of like the Christ consciousness level. And that's where I think he got to, because we had conversations and I was like, sweet Lord, no pun intended, but he was a whole nother level. And who's to say you can't grow a plant? Well, apparently they say that. So it's tricky, because you probably wouldn't want to push it unless you know what you're doing. But this is what we're fighting for. We're fighting for real freedom here.
yeah,
and
we are.
and And we're not even talking about all the oppression, and there's enough of that information out there. People will call it conspiracy theory, but you can sit in oppression for a year, 24 hours a day, and just get the surface of how terrible it is when you actually know what's going on. So, I think that where to go from this is just to kind of just voice that for people, that's what we're fighting for. When you start to make different choices and put your energy and first of all, it's your consciousness and your thought, and then your energy towards building the new earth, a better way. And that's what we're all here to do, and when you die, like, are you going to be proud that you fell in line and you did your 9 to 5? There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying that I don't think that is the highest soul calling of what opportunities this existence is giving us. This is giving us all an opportunity to see what we're made of. It's giving us all an opportunity to use our creative powers and to do it with beautiful beings that are committed to making the world a better place, not half-assing it all the way in. And we're going to be able to design it and take and basically rise above all of this limitation in our lifetime. And you and I both see it. And man, I feel for you, because I was like this my whole life too. And all the time I'm like, it's coming now, it's coming now, it's coming now. And I was like, what people only recently started to wake up, but it's starting to actually roll a little bit. If I started this podcast 10 years ago in my 20s, people would think I was a lunatic. A lot of people still do. It's like,
Well, you know what? You are preaching to the choir with me, my dear.
I know.
I mean,
it's good.
I have been on the fringe, with, let's say family and, certain circles of, people around you for so long. I mean, even now, still, people are waking up, though, much more so. We've reached that critical mass. You want to bring in a little, quantum here, the quanta, the packets of light, the quanta of the heart. I mean, we have definitely reached, in my opinion, the critical mass. So we've reached that Rubicon. The line's been drawn in the sand, and our whole species is evolving, and there are many, though, that are just, and I've said this a zillion times, and I'll probably say it again a million times more, all the fruit on a tree, because you talked about picking the fruit, so that's what it reminded me, it doesn't ripen all exactly at the same time, right, Matt? No. I mean, and that's cool. That's good. I mean, we're all different. There's nobody better than anyone else. No, we all have our own baggage. Every single one of us has baggage. Some of us our luggage might be a little heavier than others, but and so people are starting to wake up. And this is the thing that it's absolutely mind-blowing when people wake up and go, what? And they learn about things. I still know people that, I mention certain things that I might be involved in, and their eyes might go like, what? Oh, you're into some trippy stuff, so I'm very happy when I can be around souls like yourself and all the people that I meet through the New Earth Project and other projects and other movements and organizations, and that we're on that same page. We're on that same page. We know we need, the world is a bit of a mess, and we need to recalibrate it. We need to kick it up a notch, and people are stepping up. And it's like we said earlier, it's not just the talk now, it's the walking the talk. And that's me. I'm a doer. I mean, my first book was Doing a 360. It's all about the doing. And, the sacred ground of doing is the being. So as we're more being in new ways of being and re-educating ourselves and learning these things, these aspects of, like you said, sovereignty and being a better person and living longer, reversing the aging process, like our Immortalis initiative, which is like huge, and our Cutie Pie, which is free open technology. I mean, oh my God, we could have separate shows just on that. all these different things that we're doing. I mean, these are big steps. It's like Michael Tillinger even said at the festival when we brought out the cutie pie at the closing ceremonies, and it worked, over unity. It worked. We were like, yay, it turned on, it worked. And Michael said, I don't think people realize, like, what a freaking miracle this is right now. I mean, and there are many working on open source, free energy technology devices. There's many. We're not the only ones with the cutie pie, but the cutie pie is really making big strides. It's amazing. I mean, I have seen her, I've touched her, I have been with her, this amazing toroidal loveliness of this thing, which is incredible, which you plug it in and it can, provide enough energy for a home. I mean, it's mind blowing. These things are happening. There are many of us out there that are actually doing things like education. For example, that's like sort of my little project right now to really get it going. I'm good at getting things going, is really starting things and advancing things and moving the energy along. And we've got like online new paradigm university with giving degrees. Okay. And we're not accredited. I don't give a damn about accreditation. Who are they to say that we're good enough? That's just a whole nother thing that has to do with money again, and who's who, and who gets these grants and complies with these forms and all of that kind of stuff. So in all the different areas, we are making these changes, but we're the bridge. Like, we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're bridging the older paradigm and bridging it to the new, and then you'll carry it on. I mean, I may not be around, although with Immortalis, start taking that, I may be around to see it another 100 years, because with the Immortalis whole protocol, we're looking at extending life to 150 to 200 years old. I mean, it's like, this is mind-blowing stuff that, we're working on. With the top scientists, the top, like Dr. Marco Ruggiero, who I've had the great honor to meet. And we did a little film, with him when we were in Sedona. But he's incredible. And, he's been working on this his whole life. He's dedicated his whole life. And what we know now about the biota, the biome, your third brain, that's his book, by the way, if some of your listeners want to check that out. And we're working on this whole Immortalis initiative now. That's a part of New Earth Humanitat too. I mean, there's just so much going on. So if folks want to get involved and champion some work, and we're always saying to folks, what do you want to do? Because I do a lot of, and I hate this word recruitment, but I meet people and they come in, and I can't stand that, whole HRism, whatever that is. But I meet a lot of people, and I always say to them, well, what do you want to do? What's your passion? We may have certain roles that we need help with, XYZ, but what do you want to do? Because if we say, well, we need this, and you don't really want to be involved in that, why would you want to do that? It's just not going to work out. If somebody's really passionate about building organic permaculture gardens, which is not my expertise, but I mean, if they are, and that's what they really want to do, then we're like, go for it, man, do it. Teach courses, build those gardens, let's do programs around it, let's do workshops, let's do this, that, and the other, yada, yada. I mean, let's like full tilt boogie, let's expand that out, in whatever ways we can. That's the key, is that flexibility, that malleability that we all have to, wear different hats and go where we really feel called to be from that zero point of our heart. That's the only way, to me, that these movements are going to work, is people just step up in their own passion, their radiant, radical passion for what they want to do. Because then we're unstoppable, right? I mean,
Yep. Yeah, well, you said a lot there, which is
I
really
did.
great. It's good. I made a couple notes, so I know exactly how
Okay,
I'd like to
cool.
reply because
Excellent.
there was a lot there that's super important. The first thing that I wanted to touch on was just a call out to the listeners of the podcast and the people out here who listen to this because the community is everything, and you and I have been in this game for a long time, and if you're in the middle of the matrix and around people that don't understand this, it's going to be challenging for you to present these ideas to, how could you leave your job for this other thing, or what do you mean this concept that they don't have an understanding of? And when you're learning it and you're resonating it with, but you don't have a full understanding and you can't like defend the point, you don't need to defend the point. You just need to stand in your own truth, and you know what your truth is. And you could also stand in love. Love and truth are the same thing. You can stand in
That's
love
the only way.
and you and your own humility, and those are the things. I don't know, man, I don't know everything, but I know that I know about my heart, and I trust myself, and I trust my guts. And now you can listen to podcasts like this and other things, and new projects will come up, but unless you make the full commitment to go to the other side, your life isn't going to change in the way that it could, to see that other side. A lot of people might dip a toe in here and there, but everybody has got to make that full plunge. And on the other side, you know, I'd say the festival people, or whatever the case is, a lot of them had to kind of do that, is really just move and commit to say, hey, like I'm going to do this. And you can do it practically and over time, and you can plan it, but you really got to commit in your heart and in your guts to do it, and you're going to find community. And just know that at first you're going to be challenged because it's different. Than We're still not the norm. We're very much a small percentage, and so we need you more than ever. So that's just kind of what I wanted to
And
say on that.
I appreciate that, Matt. And I'd like to also add in to the mix that, and it's okay if someone just sticks their toe in and, I mean, I'm one of those sort of all in gals, it's like, what is it in poker? I'm all in or something. I don't know. I don't do that, but the saying, like, I'm
Okay.
all in, I'm
Uh-huh.
one of those, I'm like the 360, like, it's like this spherical way of being. um this is part of my soul's purpose of what the heck I'm here to do. I'm very blessed. I get that. I know what I'm here to do, and there's a lot of people that they don't really know yet, like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but that's okay. One thing I always like to share, I learned from this amazing, wonderful voice, I call him, of the earth. He happens to be one of the fellows of the New Earth University, which is really cool. I saw that when I had joined New Earth. I saw his picture was on the website. I'm like, awesome. I had interviewed him a few times in my radio program that I had done, online, and it's Andrew Harvey. And Andrew Harvey has this really cool technique that he taught me. He teaches, in his book, The Hope, I believe it's in that one. That's a really great book for people who want to read that. So what you do, Matt, is you set your alarm for, like, well, I don't know, whatever, 2, 3 in the morning, and you wake up in the dark, and you really focus on what rips my freaking heart out. What just brings me to tears? What in the world, what injustice, what do I really feel such passion for? Like, is it, to help the animals? Is it children? Is it this, that, whatever? And that is the gateway to your soul's purpose. That is that knowing, like really tuning into that, you know. And I find that's very helpful, and many people have reflected that back to me when I share that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That helps. That does help bring me in sort of like narrow, because a lot of people are all over the map, which is fine too. You know, that's okay. Because everybody has their own way, their own path. There's nobody better than anybody else. It's just different. It's just like a different frequency. We're all on life is all about frequency, and it's attuning to that we call our higher frequencies as we're evolving our consciousness. So if somebody can do something like that, let's say, and tune in and go, maybe have an aha moment, and then in small ways begin to take action. The liver, the action, the heart, the mind, the liver, the action phase. That's always, and I think you alluded to it earlier in the show with me, right? And like that's the part that's always the weakest, it seems to be in other organizations. Everybody loves to talk. Like everybody loves to get in me, and we all talk. And then when it comes down to, okay, let's action this out. Let's do da 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 to get this done. Let's dig in the dirt, and let's build this and get that. That's the part that's a little bit more challenging, is it not? I mean, have you observed that? Maybe,
Yep. Yep.
the doing, like the really nitty
Hmm.
gritty, just getting it done, washing the windows, cleaning the toilets, whatever we got to do, we just do it. We just step up and do it. And the more that we just do whatever we feel called to do, whether it's in natural law, like we talked about a little bit before, or maybe it's, building permaculture gardens or designing, we have some amazing, like somebody like Michael Rice is one of our fellows, amazing, like world-renowned, most amazing, brilliant bioarchitect, sacred geometry. I mean, just stunning work, there's so many folks in our midst, and each person just brings their passion, their delicious, yummy gifts that they're going to share and help us build communities, because we're all fractal parts of the whole. I don't know, I'm not an expert in permaculture gardens. I know a little bit about it. We all have our expertise. So the trick is that we all cohere. We've got to have this like quantum conversation and then this cohering in action. And so like the New Earth Festival that we had, that was really successful. Did it have its issues? Hell yeah. There were problems with it, just like anything that anybody does. That's one thing about me. Like, I always tell people when they're coming into New Earth Project and they contact me and, they like to do this, that, and the other. And I always paint a real clear picture. I say, we may be a mess, but we're one of the greatest messes in town. We have our issues. I don't say, oh, we're so perfect and wonderful. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That's silly, right? To think that. But, that's part of the whole dance. That's part of the groove. That's what we're all doing is we're working on being together, keeping our egos in check, doing what we got to do and flowing in radiance in that 0 point of the heart and just getting things done, Um, so yeah, anything you want to
No, that's amazing. Yeah, and I really appreciate you adding that clarity to the mix because, I think that the way that my mind would go is like the masculine, dive all in, extreme sports, commit to it, don't be a wuss. And
right,
if you're new to it and you're not used to this, you got to go step by step. That's the truth. So that's correct
right,
information. But I'm also all for just diving in. But there will come, I think in my mind, it's coming to the point where somebody has been doing it and they're ready and they can't let go. So there is that later down the road. But I think that more people are really just kind of like, oh, whoa, what? An option 2 exists? I could do something else? What? That's craziness.
yeah. See,
I
that
couldn't do something else.
exactly
Yeah.
right.
So
That's
I
the
got to be
thing.
gentler on that.
Right. And
Just,
that's the thing that's really cool too, because like that's part of that, the soul awakening process, that 360, like that. When you get that bigger view, like imagine, I mean, I love to hike and I live here in the foothills. I'm only at 6,000 feet, but my mountain is 10,700, more or less, six and change. And so, I've hiked up there and, I can see that out my window, the top, the crest. And so, it's an interesting, that journey when you get to the top, right? And if we could all imagine in our mind space or heart space, I'm very visual more than auditory. So I see things, But if you're at the top of that mountain, right, the very, very, very top, right, and you see this like magnanimous view in 360 degrees all around. I mean, you can see the vistas stretching out like 100 miles in all directions. Like you just get a bigger view of things. It gives you a better perspective of the nuances of, east, south, northwest. That's a little different there, here, and there. And so you get that bigger view, and it can bring in maybe a little bit more compassion and understanding, like, because I want everything yesterday. I'm a doer. I'm seems like, you and I are like two peas in a pod. I'm like, let's do it, let's do it. And, but not everybody works the same way. Not everybody has that same perspective that I do. And I'm like, oh, yeah, right. So, there's the patience, the compassion, the kindness. But as long as we're doing a little bit here, a little bit there, like in the New Earth University, for example, we have courses. And we're really just developing. I mean, this is ground floor. I mean, we've only been the New Earth University part more from the Institute, like a year, not even a year and a half, close to that, But the people that are coming in, extraordinary people that have very high academic backgrounds that have said, screw this, I need something else. Like, this just doesn't work. And so that's the beauty, is not everyone has those scholarly backgrounds, and who cares? I mean, it doesn't matter how many letters you have behind your name. That's not the only criteria. I mean, it's nice if you've done some work, great, but we're wisdom keepers. They're indigenous folks, the great keepers of the sacred ways. There are tremendous people that may not have any degrees, and who gives a damn? I don't care. We don't care. It's what work is being done. And that's how the whole education realm needs to change. And that's why we're seeing more and more, quote, old academics coming forward. They're frustrated, they're tired, they're sick and tired of that, old paradigm that just doesn't serve anymore, And so people might write articles, and they give us resources that we put into the library that helps folks looking, like, folks in your show that might go up and look now about sovereignty and, that whole thing, and, the block letters and the birth certificate and how that's, sold on the stock exchange, your life, and things that just freak people out when they start to wake up, like, what? I didn't know that. Like, there's a my experience has been there are people, when they start having these revelations and they start to really wake up, I mean, it takes them some time. So we have to be really aware and honor that. Like, they're going through these processes of like, wow, like, are you kidding me? That can take time. Not everybody's gonna like just step up and do what you did when you went to court and you beat some things and whatever. There's a real process to this. The ITNJ, for example, we've got this. I'm going to say this slow because it's very long. Our Judicial Commission of Inquiry for Human Trafficking and Child Sex Abuse. That's what we're focused on right now, the ITNJ. And so we have extraordinary commissioners, judges. We have a team of people within like IT skills, media, and then of course, there's the trustees. But we are in 2018. I don't know when your folks are listening, maybe so. When that happened in coming up in the spring of 2018, we will be having our hearings for witnesses coming forth for human trafficking and child sex abuse. And we're finding out, the dossier that we did that's gone out, we've gotten tremendous support, shows how systemic the whole pedophilia issue is worldwide. I mean, it would curl the hair, your beautiful hair on that beautiful beard that you have that I'm looking at. I mean, I'm telling you, it's intense when you start to see what really is going on. And if you think of in the next 40 seconds, think of how long we've been on together. I don't know, whatever it is, an hour or 40 minutes. Every 40 seconds, Matt, a child vanishes in the United States. Every 40 seconds. Take a breath on that one, right? I mean, it's the great tragedy of today, human trafficking. I mean, and there's many different facets to this. I mean, we have a lot of people doing a lot of research and things. It's intense, and it leads to this very deep basement of, satanic ritual abuse. I mean, this stuff is not going away. And what's happening is you're seeing like the tip of the iceberg right now in all that's coming out, right? And all these revelations and the Me Too movement with women and, you know, sexual abuse and, in the workplace and all of this. That's nothing. And that is the tip of the iceberg. What is being done to children? 2 million children a year are exploited. 2 million by, global commercial sex trade. I mean, it is sick, but we are here not to, just point fingers and blame. That the ITNJ, our commission, our judicial commission, is about healing. It's about complete resolution and absolution of this horrific situation that's been going on for centuries, tied to the Vatican. And I mean, this is nothing new. And so what we attempt to do in the ITNJ, in this, International World Court, is to bring forth and have resolution and help those that have suffered so much. And the testimony, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. 2018, woo, hang on to your hat, that lovely hat you got on there, because there's a lot more going to be revealed, multi-level. And by the way, I just want to suggest also, I forgot to mention this, when you were asking me more about sovereignty and all that, we have an amazing resource called the Sovereign Voice magazine. It is just absolutely stunning, Matt, in substance and aesthetic. We've got about 5 issues out. Yeah, we do have 5 issues out. And they're very, this is not a 3-page newsletter. This is like 100-page, incredible magazine. So you could spend weeks, because people have said to me, whoa, that's quite a rabbit hole to go down. Like, that's amazing. And when you start to read the different articles we have in there, it will also build that library of resources, that depository or repository for our own awareness of the aspects of sovereignty and what can be done, and this, that, and the other. So if you go to the itnj.org, and then in the menu, you'll see Sovereign Voice magazine. It's complimentary, so enjoy it. And then we also have the New Earth Oracle magazine. That is a magazine that's put out, has more to do with like the New Earth University and, the Wisdom Keepers, what Sasha calls the brain trust of the whole New Earth project. That's the thing, when you're building a movement, you gather in like the brain trust, people that of heart and mind doing things, and you gather them in as wisdom keepers, to help make change, to help do projects, and help make the world a better place.
Wow. That's incredible. For how disturbing the planet is, I've seen it come up because of the Harvey Weinstein. So I've been in this conversation a few times with girlfriend's family and stuff like that, and even her. I was like, if you had any idea how horrible this planet, like with what's happening on this planet right now, you probably wouldn't be able to go to work for a couple weeks. It's, and when I went down the rabbit hole, I struggled with it for probably a couple of years, because I just couldn't understand how it could be that bad.
Yeah.
Just, and you're just like, it's like this horrible, like, weird devil movie, and you're like, this too, come on, and then you look and you're like, oh my goodness grief. But and the good news though with all this is, the 2018, I've heard that to essentially move to the new earth that we want to do, some harmony, peace, collaboration, all that darkness has to rise to the top. We all have to be aware of it, and we all have to move through it, and we all have to make peace with it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and and the starting of it is people going into action, and now it's happening. It's starting to unravel. It's starting to, and you may as well dip your toe into, what I call Team Earth, or collaboration, or peace, or kindness, and just be that person. Do that, because for me, when I heard it all and was going through it, and man, for what I know, I'm sure there's just more and more. And I was like, how do I change this? I felt so small, and just how do I, and put the whole world on my shoulders, and I had to deal with that. And I still kind of deal with it now, because
Let's
just
talk
the
about
awareness.
that. Let's talk about
hmm
that's important.
hmm So what I was gonna
Apologize.
say, no, that's okay. And so, for me, that's a big part of myself and one of my best friends having to deal with. And what I realized in that sense was just, I have to be the best ambassador that I can be. It's not just mine to fix, but I can do my part, and I'm committed 100% to doing my part. And that's why I work so hard on the podcast. And people who listen to it, that they don't know the stuff that I do behind the scenes. And it's not to say that I'm a saint or anything. It's to say that I really try my best to move in love and kindness, and to be that example. And am I that all the time? No, I make mistakes rarely. I'm pretty good. But it's really just putting that kindness and collaboration and love first. And I really do commit to it. I really do my best to try to help people. I really do try to, just be there when someone needs it. And it's so much simpler than people realize sometimes, because
Yeah.
it's within our communities, it's within our families, it's within our workspaces, it's within our restaurants, the way you treat your waiter, the way you treat people you walk past. And that's where kind of I've come to, experience that anyway. And just how you go about and show up in your daily life is the most important thing, because you're showing an example of love and coherence. You're showing an example of what, maybe not an ideal or a coherent and loving human is, to give someone else that opportunity to model that behavior. Um, so that's what you could add
Yeah.
on, whatever you
But
like.
you know what, I wanted to touch upon something you said about, the feeling small, and sometimes it's, overwhelming. What I really want to impart to your beautiful audience for this program is that every little bit that we do is wonderful, and not to feel, oh, well, she does this, she's written books, and, he's got this show, and why he does this, and blah, blah. So what? I mean, I'm not belittling these achievements. They're lovely achievements, and I'm actually working on another book, which is a lot of work. My God, it's a lot of work putting out these books. But, but the thing is that the small things are so beautiful. Figure out the little, whatever you can do in your own inimitable way to make yourself better, to make the experience better, the joy, whatever it might be. I mean, that's the important thing, is don't compare yourself to anybody else. Who cares? Don't worry about anybody else. I mean, oh my God, I met Sasha. I thought I was a workaholic. I've never met anyone in my life, and I've been around this beautiful earth a few times and lived many decades now in my sixth decade already started. And but he is, it's like the old saying, the mirroring, right? I'm really big on, doing shadow work and mirroring. That's a big part of my work. And so I thought I was a workaholic. I mean, this soul is so 1,000% dedicated. Every waking moment goes to making it better through the projects in Humanitat, whether it's New Earth Project or our Immortalis or the Cutie Pie or, the ITNJ. I mean, nonstop 24/7. And it's like, oh, I see. Okay, good. So that's fascinating. And, that's my shadow to work on because, I'm that kind of person. I can work 24 hours too until I fall over, which is not a balanced way either, so it's always finding that balance in life, in the things that we're doing. And so this gives great opportunity to work on ourselves, to hone our skills and be more balanced in body, in mind, in spirit and emotions, sweep those 4 rooms of the temple clean, those 4 quadrants. So the small things, it's like the dreaming big. It's like, who was the guy that used to say, oh, what the heck was, Stuart Wilde. He's passed on now a number of years, but I used to listen to him like way long time ago. And he would always say, well, fake it till you make it. Your body doesn't know the difference between like fact and fantasy. So just like, you just bring that forward into your consciousness, that visioning, and you just bring it into the now. You just bring it in. That manifestation. I see these things. I see these things happening. And I know in my heart they're happening. I've seen them. I know they're going to happen. It's that psionic ability, But not other people maybe don't. So you just, help along the way. You stand side by side others. And we just walk together on this big hike, a great hike we call life, this amazing heroic journey that is just absolutely awesome. This is the most beautiful planet. This is, and not from a place of hubris, but we are the most amazing species, Homo sapiens sapien. We're moving, we're elevating our consciousness into Homo divinus and whatever we wish to call it. There's different names, being thrown around. So, whatever we can do in our own way, we just have to really start tuning into the heart and feeling into what can I do? And that it's good, whatever you do. I mean, maybe, a good life is just getting up in the morning and being kind to everybody that you're with. Who gives a damn? I don't care if you're a garbage man or if you sell cigars or who cares what it is that you like to do. Everybody is different. And that is important. That's what sovereignty is. Sovereignty is doing no harm, being your own sovereign being, and not harming others. That's the real strong pillar there, is not to harm other people. Do not encroach upon other people's sovereignty and peace. So a lot of people, when they start getting into like sovereignness and that, they don't, it's like sovereignty doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do now. No. No, just because you're sovereign doesn't mean, I'm a sovereign being, so I can go through the red light and then kill the people in the car that went through because I decided I'm sovereign. I'll do whatever I want. No, there are certain, we follow guidelines and we follow things to flow with others in a healthy, beautiful way. So if I were not to follow the flow and harm others because of my ego, I'm just going to do whatever I want because I'm sovereign, That's like a phase sometimes I think people go through. There is a misinterpretation of sovereignty, So it's that beautiful sense of oneness, that unique beingness, but without hurting others. And that is, you want to work on that? Go get in your car and drive on the freeway in traffic. You know what I'm saying? You dig what I'm saying, My beautiful teacher, Kenshin Palden Rinpoche, beautiful Nyingma master from Tibet, and I loved him dearly. I studied with him, traveled around the world for more than 20 years. And so I'm a practitioner of Dzogchen, and that is my heart practice. And he used to always say, this interesting, wanna learn, get in car, go on trip. and learn, how you react to things, you know? Very interesting. And it's kind of true, don't you think? How we can get in that very visceral, reactive space with things. And it
Hmm.
shows us, you think you made some progress, and then what's the old saying, you go to spend a holiday with the family and it kicks your ass, and you realize, wow, I thought I made some progress. I got more work to do, type of thing. So life
Yeah,
is a trip.
that's what I was
Yeah.
going to bring up. I've heard like that was the one of the Ram Dass quotes is like if you think you're enlightened, you spend the weekend with your family, which is timely because it should be just after the holidays or
Right.
when it comes out or before if you watch it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and it's the reactions. It's the reactions for sure.
yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Well,
no doubt about
Nancy,
it. Yes.
we've holy smokes, I'm so interested in so much more. I would love to have
Okay.
you come back to
We
talk
can do
about,
that. Listen,
you
man.
know,
I love doing this. I'm honored to be on your program, and then others can come on too. And if you want to drill into something else, I'd be happy to do that anytime. And there's just so much going on. If folks want to reach me, just drop me an email, nancy@humanitad.org. Go to the New Earth Project, the website, newearth.university, check all the stuff out. You'll see some things there. I'm also on the faculty as well as running everything right now. Eventually down the road, I plan to pass that baton. Maybe. We'll see. Who knows? Who cares? It's all good. We're in the now. So we've got some really great stuff. We need some help with the Youth Council. We've got the Arcs of Fire Initiative, if you're interested in Agnihotra with Robert Bagnall and Dr. Ann Rawls. There's so much. We could just go on forever, I know, I can tell. First of many fun conversations with you, and I'm so honored and blessed to have been with you today.
oh, the feeling's mutual. Yeah. And I would love all the above. I'd love to have you on and anybody from the organization that wants to come and share and educate and be happy to have them on for sure. And we'll talk privately about how I can support anything that you guys are up to, anything that I have in my wheelhouse as far as
Beautiful.
skills or resources or, I'm down for it. It was, it's so deep. There's so much. It's so great. And I think that a lot of people are going to be excited to dive deep into these rabbit holes. And, man, there's so many these days, but it's nice to see a group of people taking action,
Yeah.
calculated, measured, educated, inspired, smart action. I don't know, better way to say it than that, intelligent action. And so that's it. You need people to show up and you need them to do things to make change. And so I see that you guys are doing that. So just tons
Yeah.
and tons of love and gratitude for you personally and your work and everything that you guys are doing over there. So, but before you go, is there anything that you wanted to chat about before that we didn't cover that really got you excited, or anything you just want to leave the listeners with
Well,
until we do a hectic round two?
yeah, yeah. And I know I don't know how your shows are kind of set up. And we set up our shows, the Kaleidoscope, they're kind of like evergreens. So it doesn't, matter if you're listening 3 years later or when, 3 months or whatever it is. But I will suggest in 2018 coming up, we have plans in Bali of having a retreat and then another festival, which is going to be really exciting. And and then if you're interested more in the natural justice bend in the road, we have in England at Westminster Hall, in the spring for the ITNJ, our Judicial Commission, the one of inquiry for human trafficking, child sex abuse. So stay tuned for that. And we're going to need, more and more help. We have a number of volunteers, people coming forward, in many different ways. It doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be a lawyer. If someone has a background, maybe IT related, or if they're into research, like I've got, my background, research, doing doctoral work, used to that. But some people are really into that. We need all kinds of help. And again, whatever anyone is happy to to join in and share their passion in doing. I mean, it's just a matter of configuring it all and it falls into place. As long as you just stay in that 0 point of the heart, and yeah, you're right. Sometimes we get a little wobbly, but that's life. Then it just seems to work. That's when it seems to cohere. And the people that I've met and gotten to know, and it's like this big soul family. But that's what we're doing around the world. And it's important, having like the Ubuntu movement came to our festival. Michael was there as one of our guest keynote speakers. I mean, so we didn't have it just only the New Earth folks, and that's what we need more of. Because there are a number of bigger movement. I mean, we don't call ourselves an organization. We're more of a movement, New Earth, just this New Earth movement. And one thing I do want to say, when I first was checking all this out and saw a zillion videos of everything I could get a hold of, because I knew this was my life path, this is it. And one thing that was said by Sasha, and it might have been Greg too, was, well, we know we've done our job and we don't even have to call this New Earth Project anymore. The heck, forget that. It'll just be already enacted. And I went, bingo, that's it. That's me. So we don't have to label it anything that's new or a new earth. We're just living in freedom, in that peace, in that beautiful sovereign way. And God, please let me see the flowering and the blossoming of that. Maybe I'll be 90 years old. What the heck, little yogini, still able to hopefully do some of those great asanas like I used to do when I was younger. Put my legs behind my head and twirl around, and so we'll see. And with the Immortalis, institutes that'll be sprouting up, and the whole Immortalis initiative, maybe it'll be nice to live to 150 if I'm healthy and really see this being enacted. You'll carry it on. You will be doing that, and I so honor you and thank you in advance for carrying the torch and bringing this forward for the children and their children and their children, because Earth will be fine. She's fine. She'll recalibrate. She'll just spit us off, before we screw everything up worse, right? Earth is fine. She's okay. Gaia, if you want to use that term, our spirit Gaia, she's just fine. And the last thing I just want to say, which is how I always like to, I don't know, I just throw this out that to your listeners, your viewers, that I mean, in all of the world, the entire multiverse, I ask you to remember back in that remembering, that no one is you. No one is ever going to be you. And shine your light as that sovereign being in whatever way you feel called to do so. And remember that you're not alone. You're not alone anymore. That's really a beautiful thing. So I love you with gratitude and grace. I thank you for holding this space for us, Matt. It's been such an honor and a pleasure to be with you, my brother, lovely brother in oneness. And yeah, we'll be in touch.
Amazing. I fully agree and resonate with everything you said, and just thank you too. Thank you so much for all the work and coming on, and I love you so much too. I look forward to building this and seeing it in our life and seeing it. I think that we have some momentum on our side, and I think that with the technologies and people waking up, it's gonna double down and just thanks for the work, and happy to keep this conversation going and see how I can support.
Cool. Thank you, Matt. Much love to you, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. See you, everybody. Bye, Nancy.
Bye, everyone. Bye, people. Love you.